Arcanist has been struggling in set 11, but high elo and even pro players have been playing it, and they've pulled off incredible wins even in scrims. But the problem is that Arcanist is very tricky to play if you don't know what you're doing, and that is exactly what this video is for, showing you how these players play Arcanist so you can do the same. But massive shout out to my Discord and actually Throwdown for inspiring me to make content like this. So let me know if you like this video and content like this because I'll keep on making it. And of course, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe. Anyway, let's start by covering the highest elo player I've seen having consistently good success with Arcanist, and that is Riri. By looking through their VODs and match histories, I've learnt a lot, so definitely check out Riri when they're live or check out their YouTube. I'll link both in the description. Anyway, initially, like you and me, Riri was struggling with Arcanist. For example, they tried variants including Wukong and Soraka, but they didn't really pan out very well. However, after more games of Arcanist, it became clear which variant performed far better, which is this board of 6 Arcanists and 4 Porcelain, particularly when you get a Porcelain Spatula, or this version around 8 Arcanists whenever you get an Arcanist Spat. Now, I find this fascinating because I thought 4 Warden was absolutely necessary for the Arcanists to scale. However, Riri and the other players I'll talk about in this video proved me wrong. That Arcanist AP give Amumu and Illaoi more shielding or bigger heals, and the damage reduction from 4 Porcelain is greater than 4 Warden. Additionally, 4 Porcelain allows your carries to deal more damage faster due to the attack speed, and this is especially true for Lissandra, who, as we'll see in a second, enables the late game potential of Arcanist due to her loot. But that's not to say you can get away with having no 3-stars. In all the VODs and match histories I've looked at, the best performing games have always had a 3-starred carry and or tank, and those that didn't hit in turn didn't perform that well. So if you're playing Arcanist, your goal should always be to reroll. But generally, here's the game plan. The highest success cases will usually start rerolling at level 7 in stage 3, but the latest can be 4-2. After hitting, they aim to level to 8, which is usually at 4-5 or 5-1. However, that requires a bit of high rolling and incredible econ. Thus, to be able to do this, you must streak and econ as hard as possible in stage 2. Of course, lost streaking is easier, but you need to play around your HP. If you can outlive your opponents, you can get significantly stronger as contested units like Zoe and Illaoi go back into the pool. Having said that, lost streaking is phenomenal if you trade your HP for more loot, such as through Fortune or the what doesn't kill you Augment. But there's also portals like Scuttlepuddle that permit you such incredible econ. Generally your carry will be Zoe, but Lux can be incredible on an Arcanist board. However, rolling at 6 can be inefficient as there are more 3 costs you want a 3-star like Amumu and Illaoi, and being able to high roll legendaries like Cassandra or Hui is huge. And with the huge buff to level 7 next patch, rolling at 7 will be the way to go. Items wise, Zoe and Lux love Shojin, an attack speed item like Shiv or Nash's, and Jewel Gauntlet for more damage. Lux is also your Morella holder as she will apply anti-heal to any unit her ult hits. But as I hinted at previously, Emblems and Spatulas are incredible and somewhat essential for Arcanist. For example, Riri keeps the option of 8 Arcanists open, which is a huge win con considering Riri has never bot forward with it. In other words, Riri has always won with 8 Arcanists. These are the core units in 8 Arcanists, and the last unit is whomever you can hit. Riri has played units like Set, Azir, Lilia, Annie, Nautilus, or Wukong. Nevertheless, a Porcelain Spat is phenomenal for 6 Arcanists as you can easily activate 4 Porcelain alongside it. However, in some games, Riri couldn't hit Illaoi or Amumu 3 due to being contested or just missing. When this happens, Riri will sometimes play for Warden to make up for this deficit, but that can still fail in cases where he lacks frontline items. That is seemingly why Lissandra is so crucial. Not only does she activate important trait breakpoints, but also the sooner she comes online, the faster she can farm you items and make up for any deficits on your board. So that is a potential option if you can't 3-star a tank. 3-star your carry as usual, but then aim to play Lissandra as soon as possible. Now, in another one of Riri's games, one thing I found very interesting is that Riri took Knight's Vow here over Martyr and Unstable Treasure Chest. The frontline will die, so you will get the value from Martyr or Treasure Chest, but contextually this is due to his opponents having units like Morgana, Lilia, Set, and Nautilus who are backline threats. And Knight's Vow demonstrates its value in literally the next round wherein the frontline perishes but Zoe and Syndra are still able to sustain. The Omnivamp makes your board somewhat less reliant on your frontline because your backliners are tankier through the extra HP and Omnivamp. But not all games have gone perfectly for Riri. For example, this game was an incredible low roll. They hit Zoe 3 at 5-2, meanwhile another player hit Bard 3 at 4-2. And while the triple combat augment saved him a ton of HP, he still struggled finding Zoe and Amumu despite all the extra gold from the encounter. Riri got stuck at level 7 re-rolling until 6-1 and so couldn't reach the Arcanist late game. But while he did lose the game at 6-1, he actually didn't perform that poorly into 6 duelists for Dragonlord and finished the game in 4th place. Similarly, in this game, despite hitting Lux 3, high rolling Lysandra and having a porcelain spatula, Riri couldn't see the late game of Arcanist, mostly due to just not having enough gold. Having said that, Riri recently had an Arcanist game that was a complete stomp when Riri dealt 242 damage to other players, whereas 2nd place only dealt 99. And Riri ended the game on the 20 win streak at 95 HP. I believe Riri attributed this game and the board power to the combination of Exalted and Arcanist being incredibly powerful.
強すぎじゃない？ちょっとこのイグゾルアルカに。
And for reference, the Exalted combination was Ahri, Cho'Gath, Amumu, Soraka, and Lee Sin. But Riri is not the only player who has had success with this Exalted combination. Most of the other players that I'll discuss soon also completely stomped with this specific Exalted. This is likely due to how early and easily you can activate Exalted, allowing you to hit 7 sooner, play a much stronger board, and cap out much higher. So if you see this Exalted, definitely consider playing Arcanist. Now, as I was making this video, I noticed Kiyoon had an incredible performance with Arcanist. Kiyoon had a Fortune opener as the Arcanist emblem granted him a Zoe. While Kiyoon's Fortune cash out was amazing, nonetheless he played this game incredibly well. And Kiyoon demonstrated the power of Jeweled Lotus with Arcanist, especially the Prismatic version. This augment increases the damage of your board tremendously. Furthermore, Kiyoon reiterates that Arcanist loves spatulas.
I'm down for a Porcelain +1. I'm down for a Faded +1. I'm down for a Warden +1. I'm down for a Heavenly +1.
Later on, Kiyoon played Wukong for 2 Heavenly over Ash for 4 Porcelain.
Ash? Is Ash even better than Wukong? Nope. Like, come on, guys. I'm no idiot. Like, isn't Wukong just better, guys? 60 health from a whole team. Works with Z0 as well. 10% attack speed from a whole team. Whereas Porcelain, it's 25% attack speed from my Lux and Amumu. Who the f cares?
I personally believe in Porcelain for the aforementioned reasons, however Kiyoon's assessment is correct, wherein the Heavenly bonus is more beneficial for your team. Anyway, after winning out, Kiyoon later adds,
Isn't this actually the strongest comp in the game, assuming you hit or no? I mean, I also have JL3 with 8 Arcanists. It's so high roll though? Yeah, it is so high roll.
And Throwdown is unequivocally correct. The conditions for this comp can be very difficult, but if you can achieve those conditions, then you can completely dominate. For example, Kiyoon then proceeds to highlight a scrim where Setsuko had the same opener, played Fortune into Arcanist, and similarly proceeded to win out.
There's a game I was playing scrims with. Setsuko also had the exact opener. Fortune into 8 Arcanists, Zoe 3, Alawi 3, Amumu 3, Lux 3, and he just won out with like 1 HP. Lux 3, Amumu 3, Alawi 3, Zoe 3, Syndra 3, 8 Arcanist, 4 Porcelain, 2 Warden.
This was a scrim, so I don't believe there was a VOD, but if there is, let me know so I can look into it. It's very hard to infer much information from just a single match. For example, I wouldn't have even known Setsuko opened with Fortune if Kiyoon didn't mention it. Anyway, it seems like Arcanist is a good matchup into Lilia and Ashe comps as Lux slows down their damage. Lilia especially struggles into Amumu and Alawi because she can't get through them in time, and Zoe heavily punishes the existence of lower cost units through her passive. Setsuko was incredibly far ahead of the other top 4 players despite being a level down. So it does seem that Fortune is very potent into Arcanist because you have all the key ingredients you need through extra golden items. And through Fortune, you don't necessarily need to pick an augment to help you reroll. But next up we have Kurumx, who has had some phenomenal insights that I wanted to highlight. In one of his games, Kurumx opened with Arcanist Crown but low rolled very heavily, and then he proceeded to say the following regarding Arcanist Crown.
I guess you can really only take this if you're like sure that you can Giga Tempo with it. Like it was good for my spot, but just not good enough, right? Like I can't like I didn't have like upgrades. Like if I take this and I have upgrades, I can probably win streak for sure, but without a win streak is just not good enough, I think. Okay, I mean I learned my lesson. I will never take this Augment on 2-1 unless I can guarantee my win streak. Holy f, this line is like so high roll. It's so high roll. Also, like, you should always be contested when you play this line, right? Like, Ashe players, Ghostly players, like, you pretty much always are contested unless it's like a really weird lobby. This Arcanist Trace doesn't seem very good. I mean, it's a good line if you can get 3-star front line, basically. The thing is, like, the units you are trying to 3-star are Amumu, Alawi, Zoe. Like, tell me what lobby these units aren't Giga contested in. Like almost always they are contested. That's why I think this line is just not very good. It's like a ticket line. It's like a ticket line. Like, people can't really stop you if you have ticket, but I mean, it's also like fine, right? It's fine if you have tempo, right? Like, it's fine if you have HP to work with. Like, win streak gets you HP, gets you gold. It's fine. Like, you bleed out a little bit. Like, wait for people to die, stuff like that. But like, I can't take it if I don't have like upgraded front line. Like, if I don't have like guarantee, if I don't have like at least like guarantee, I think it's really hard to win streak on stage 2. I mean, it's definitely a tempo line, for sure.
So while Arcanist is certainly a viable line, it is very constringent on hitting and playing around Econ. That can be a massive ask, especially when the units are frequently contested. In another game, Kurumx picked Boiling Point, so he didn't have to build anti-heal, could go for Lux 3 and itemize her and Zoe as duo carries. Again, to quote Kurumx,
I don't like to go out. I like to go in and stay in.
that's the wrong quote.
I mean, if I get Lux 3, I'm down to stack her second as duo, and then it's actually pretty good. And it makes it so like I don't have to itemize anti-heal, because I might not even get anti-heal, and even if I did, like I could probably just make better items. But yeah, I mean, I basically just took like Blistering Strikes plus 1 Lux, but like it's not even Blistering Strikes, because Blistering Strikes applies it way better, and like it's gold instead of silver. But like I got a Lux, okay, and +1 a Mumu. Bro, if it gave a Mumu, I would be happy. It just gave a Lux.
Looking at the stats for 14.11, Boiling Point is terrible at 2-1 but far better at other stages. Now, what I'll add to this is that next patch Boiling Point will also grant an Amumu, which should bolster its strength, especially at 2-1. Now, moving on to another NA Arcanist player, we have Lord Kismus, who has had consistent success with Arcanist since Set 11's launch. Now, this match here demonstrates that Arcanists can also use a Fated Spat. I presume Lord links Syndra and Ahri so Syndra gets more AP. Lord usually takes a reroll, Econ, item or Spat Augment at 2-1 such as Too Much Candy, Porcelain Crest or Buried Treasures. At later Augment selections, they then prioritize combat augments. For example, it seems they take Harm Assist incredibly often, however that seems to be more of a personal preference as they do that regardless of comp. Now, there's also Good Luck, a player on the Korean server who also plays Arcanist. I wanted to highlight this game here where Good Luck found success with Arcanist and a ghostly Spat of all things. But the main aspect of Good Luck's games that I wanted to highlight are their attempts of Ahri reroll, which haven't been very successful. This is likely due to rolling at earlier levels and so being unable to find late game units like Syndra and Lysandra. Now, there's also Lucy, a player on the Vietnamese servers who frequently plays around Wardens, Sniper and in turn Arcanist. Lucy had a very perplexing loss with Cybernetic Uplink that I decided to investigate. As it turns out, Cybernetic Uplink does not provide much value to an Arcanist board because most of the carries already have perfect intervals for mana generating items. Specifically, with both the gold and prismatic versions, Uplink does not make Zoe or Syndra cast any faster, and Lux only benefits from the prismatic version and only from her third cast and onwards. However, both tiers of Uplink do benefit Lysandra after her first cast due to her sheer mana cost. But overall, the mana generation value of Uplink is pretty low on an Arcanist board, and the value is predominantly in the HP it grants. However, there is a contradiction here, as Tactics.tools says the best users of Uplink are Lux and Zoe. But looking into the data a bit more closely, Lux has positive deltas, which is bad, and Zoe has negative deltas, although the difference is very small. I believe this is due to Story Weaver comps and Zoe's positioning with Kayle, and in turn they're targeted by largest clump abilities like Nautilus or Morgana. The effects of CC and Chill do slow down Zoe, but Cybernetic Uplink makes up for that as Zoe's less reliant on autoing for mana. But from my math and the data, my conclusion is that you shouldn't take Cybernetic Uplink with Arcanist. But if you do notice any miscalculations, please let me know. I've triple checked this, but I'm still only human. Now let's look at this challenger player in the LAM region. In many games, Lion has managed to get an Arcanist Spatula, but doesn't play around a Arcanist and instead opts to play around more Wardens, Legendaries or Exalted. This may be to make up for the lack of 3-star frontline, as well as play around units with backline access such as Set and Hui. Also, here's another game where numerous units were 3-starred and both a Porcelain and an Arcanist Spat were acquired. And here's another example of how good Prismatic Ticket can be at 2-1. But moving on to another player on the Vietnamese servers, we have Shiony, who has played the most Arcanist games out of all of these players. Shiony heavily indexes on Lux and aims to 3-star her as frequently as possible and give her items like Shojin, Jewel Gauntlet and Nash's. Although Nash's can be replaced by another attack speed item like Rageblade or another damage item like Rabadon or Sniper's Focus. Shiony is also another player that heavily prioritizes Prismatic Ticket, and again, here's another example of the aforementioned Exalted Arcanist dominating. Lastly, we have cheongchan, who primarily rerolls Neeko and Lux as a primary tank and carry. This does cap lower, but you can hit far sooner, especially if there's another 2-cost reroller. And once again, here's another loss streak into Arcanist, but this time with the what doesn't kill you augment. I don't know if they also played Fortune, but again, here's another example of the Exalted combination that has popped off repeatedly. But generally, cheongchan gives Lux utility items like Shiv and Morello or Red Buff. Like others, cheongchan heavily prioritizes reroll augments, such as ticket augments, team building, and heroic grab bag. I find it very interesting that despite the lack of combat augments, they still perform incredibly well with just reroll and item augments. But it still seems like cheongchan will take Jeweled Lotus at every opportunity. Okay, so that was a lot of information to cover, so let's summarize it. Arcanist has a lot of potential, but it can be very dependent on re-rolling, finding spatulas, or both. And that is why you should always prioritize spatulas if you're playing Arcanist. Even if you can't make the ideal spat, which is porcelain, you can still make and utilize fated, ghostly, heavenly, and mythic spatulas on this board. Augment-wise, reroll augments are huge, especially Prismatic ticket, because your gold usage becomes incredibly more efficient. And of course, augments that grant you emblems you're looking for are huge because you can hit stuff like 8 Arcanist. But item augments are good too, so you can itemize more tanks or carries. And of course, combat augments like healing orbs are great, but you should always prioritize Jeweled Lotus as that tremendously increases your board's damage, especially the Prismatic version. And I'm of the opinion that you shouldn't take Cybernetic Uplink as its value is incredibly low. Items wise, Ahri, Lux, Zoe, and Syndra overlap heavily with their itemization. In terms of artifacts, RFC on Lysandra keeps her safe with all the extra range. I also think Trenchcoat Lysandra can farm a lot of items if she procs the item effect. You can also give Sniper's Focus to Lux to make her ult nuke backliners. Similarly, Horizon Focus and Withsend are also potential options on Lux, however I've not managed to find matches with those artifacts. Mana Zane is also generally great on Arcanist due to the rapid mana generation, although do not give it to Syndra. Mana Zane is seemingly still bugged on Syndra to not properly give her mana as she casts, as Leduk previously mentioned. But for the most part, I think that covers everything. Overall, I don't think the Arcanist line has been perfected yet, but it's certainly a great comp from the right spot, which will be especially true next patch with the buffs to Lux and Lysandra. And so I'm incredibly curious about where players like Setsuko and Riri will take Arcanist. Will it be exclusively played from Fortune openers, or will the buffs to Lux and Lysandra tempt more people into playing it? Personally, I'm a tad bit scared of the Lux buff because that is so much more damage, especially with 6 or 8 Arcanists. For me, this research has made me fall in love with Arcanist because it's such a difficult comp to play, but it's really rewarding. But on that note, I will end the video. But please let me know what you think. Are you going to play Arcanist? What do you think of its potential? And are you as worried as I am about those Lux buffs? Let me know in the comments and remember to subscribe. Anyway, check out these other videos if you want to see more from me. And as always, thank you for watching and I'll catch you in the next one.